When Clara's great-uncle passed away, he left her his old Victorian house on Elm Street. It was a sprawling, historic property, and Clara decided to spend a few days there alone to clear out the belongings and get the house ready for sale. The first few days were uneventful, but on the third night, Clara began to notice unsettling things. The house was filled with antique furniture, and the walls seemed to have eyes. Clara couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. She dismissed it as her imagination running wild in the old house. That night, she heard creaking sounds coming from the second floor, where the old bedrooms were located. The noises grew louder, and Clara decided to investigate. She made her way up the grand staircase, each step echoing through the empty house. As she reached the top, she noticed a door slightly ajar, which led to a dusty, forgotten bedroom. The door creaked open as she pushed it, revealing a room frozen in time, with old toys and furniture covered in sheets. In the center of the room stood a large, ornate mirror. As Clara approached, she saw movement in the reflection, a shadowy figure standing behind her. She spun around, but the room was empty. The mirror's surface seemed to ripple, and she felt an icy chill run down her spine. The following night, Clara experienced the same unsettling noises, but this time they were accompanied by faint whispers. She decided to set up a camera in the bedroom to capture any activity. The footage revealed something horrifying, a ghostly figure moving through the room, stopping to look directly at the camera, its face twisted in agony. Determined to uncover the truth, Clara researched the house's history. She discovered that a family had once lived there, but the parents had disappeared under mysterious circumstances, and their children were never found. Clara began to piece together the story and realized the ghostly figure in the mirror was one of the lost children. As the nights went on, the activity intensified. The whispers turned into frantic cries for help. Clara felt increasingly trapped in the house, and the feeling of being watched grew unbearable. On the final night, she heard a loud crash from the attic. She climbed up to investigate and found an old trunk filled with the children's belongings and a journal detailing their last days in the house. The journal described the children's terror as they were left alone in the house, abandoned by their parents. Clara felt a heavy presence in the attic, and as she read the final entry, she heard a child's voice whisper, "Help us." Desperate, Clara fled the house and never returned. The house remained abandoned, and Clara learned that some places are better left undisturbed. James inherited Blackwood Manor from his late grandfather, a man known for his reclusive nature. The manor was an imposing structure with Gothic architecture and a mysterious past. Eager to explore the family estate, James decided to spend a week alone there, hoping to uncover some family secrets. The first few days were quiet, but on the fourth night, James began to hear strange sounds, footsteps echoing through the halls, whispers in the dark. The noises were always just out of sight, and he couldn't find their source. Each night, the sounds grew louder and more insistent. One evening, James decided to investigate the source of the noises. He followed the sounds to the library, where he discovered a hidden door behind a bookcase. The door led to a dark, dusty cellar that hadn't been used in decades. Inside, he found old crates and dusty furniture, but nothing seemed out of place. As James explored the cellar, he felt a chill in the air and heard a low, mournful wail. He noticed a series of old paintings hanging on the walls, depicting various family members in grim, somber poses. One painting in particular caught his eye, a portrait of a woman with a sorrowful expression. The wail grew louder, and James felt an oppressive presence in the cellar. He found an old journal hidden in a drawer, detailing a series of tragic events that had befallen the family over the years. The final entry described the death of the woman in the portrait, who had been a victim of a dark ritual performed by her husband. As the nights went on, the hauntings became more intense. James saw shadowy figures moving through the halls and felt cold, unseen hands touching him. The whispers turned into anguished cries, and he could no longer sleep. On the final night, James was drawn to the cellar once more. He found the journal open to a page describing a ritual to release trapped spirits. Desperate for peace, he followed the instructions, but as he completed the ritual, the room was filled with a blinding light and a cacophony of wailing voices. The next morning, James left Blackwood Manor and never returned. He could never explain what happened, but he knew that the manor was haunted by more than just memories. It was a place where darkness and sorrow lingered, forever trapped within its walls. Emily had recently moved into a small, isolated cottage in the countryside. It was a charming place, but it had a reputation for being haunted. Undeterred by the stories, Emily enjoyed the solitude and spent her days fixing up the cottage and exploring the surrounding forest. On the second night, she heard a knock at the door. It was odd because she hadn't invited anyone. She looked through the peephole but saw nothing. The knocking continued intermittently throughout the night, growing louder and more insistent. The following night, Emily decided to investigate the source of the noise. She opened the door to find nothing but darkness and the chilling wind. The knocking seemed to be coming from the forest, so she ventured out with a flashlight. The forest was silent, and she found no one there. As the nights progressed, the knocking became accompanied by strange occurrences. Footsteps in the attic, shadows moving across the walls, and a sense of being watched. Emily felt increasingly uneasy and started to see glimpses of a dark figure in the corners of her vision. Determined to uncover the truth, Emily set up cameras around the cottage. The footage revealed a shadowy figure moving through the rooms and a faint, ghostly whispering. The figure appeared to be searching for something, its movements frantic and disoriented. One night, Emily heard the knocking again, but this time it was coming from inside the house. She found the front door wide open and the cottage cold and empty. The shadowy figure from the footage appeared before her, its face obscured by darkness. It reached out with a cold, skeletal hand and whispered, "Help me." Emily felt a surge of terror, but also a strange sense of sympathy. She learned that the figure was the ghost of a previous occupant who had been trapped in the forest and died trying to find his way home. Desperate to help, Emily researched the history of the area and found a way to appease the restless spirit. On the final night, she performed a ritual to release the spirit, and as she completed it, the knocking ceased and the dark presence vanished. The cottage felt lighter, and Emily was finally able to rest peacefully. Despite the resolution, Emily left the cottage, knowing that some mysteries are better left unsolved and that the darkness of the past can linger long after its source has been laid to rest.